If you were looking forward to seeing Ncuti Gatwa's 15th Doctor battle the Daleks anytime soon, you might be waiting a little while. That's according to some new quotes that have appeared online from Russell T Davies. So this is one of many things that came out of the Q&A that happened after the premiere of The Star Beast about a week ago, the first of the 60th specials. It was screened over at Battersea Power Station and Russell was there. Other people were there as well, loads of past companions and things, people like Katie Manning, Caroline Ford, Sophie Aldred, Janet Fielding. They had the whole kind of Bad Wolf crew there as well, people like Phil Conson, Jane Tranter, Judy Gardner, and Russell obviously himself. So yeah, a fantastic looking event, was very, very jealous not to be there. And after the screening there was this Q&A with Russell, with Jo Wiley I believe asking the questions. She's the presenter who did the concert recently, the 60th concert in Cardiff. She was there speaking to Russell, and various quotes and interview quotes and bits and pieces that have come out of this recently. I'm not sure whether like an embargo is lifted or whatever, but yeah, certain publications like the Radio Times and the Daily Mirror and people are running these articles now with interview quotes from Russell and other people that were there. And perhaps the most controversial, the most incendiary of these is this article from the Radio Times, and I believe the Daily Mirror have also picked up the story as well. Doctor Who boss confirms Daleks won't return in Ncuti Gatwa's first season. And it goes on to say the Cybermen will also be absent from season 14, or season 1, Russell T Davies has revealed. So Russell described next year's season, whatever we're calling it, series 14, season 1, the 2024 season. He described it as very new, sort of unsurprisingly really. Ncuti's new, Millie Gibson is new, and it was new to us, that the team, with Disney and the whole new era, as it were. He goes on to say that he didn't want to look back to the past too much, and so consequently there are no Daleks or Cybermen in the series. I do think we've had a lot of Daleks lately, because actually, lovely Chris Chibnall's Christmas specials have all been Daleks. I think they've been done a lot. People are expecting them every year now, so I think they need a good pause. Hopefully there's some enemies that will become new classics, but it's always good to move on. And apparently Russell didn't rule out bringing the Daleks or Cybermen back, later on in his tenure in the second series or whatever, but apparently that is what he had to say on the matter at this premiere. So yes, a lot of interesting things to say about this, because the number one question, is he telling the truth? Is this just an elaborate lie, a red herring, sort of trying to mislead us, as Doctor Who showrunners have done all the time in the past? I think every single showrunner, basically, but pretty much, has said at one point or another, there aren't going to be any Daleks in this season, or there aren't going to be, any appearances from this character, or this isn't going to happen. And then, you turn on your television and that's exactly what does happen, the exact opposite of what they've just said. And so, yeah, it ends up being a ruse a lot of the time, most prominently and most recently as well, the same claim was made by Chris Chibnall prior to Series 11. They were just finishing up production on Series 11. They'd gone over to Comic-Con in San Diego to do a panel, all of the Series 11 TARDIS team, the fam, and Chris and Matt Stevens, etc. And as part of the panel there, the Q&A or whatever, Chris was asked whether the Daleks would be appearing in Jodie Whittaker's first series, Series 11, and he said something along the lines of, well, we've been filming for months and we've got 2 weeks left and they haven't shown up yet. And at the time, sort of straight away, there was loads of speculation about him being very careful with his words there and sort of lying by telling the truth, sort of holding something back. And obviously, as we now know, Resolution was filmed right at the end of production on Series 11, so he technically was telling the truth. There hadn't had any Daleks on set so far, but they were literally about to start filming a Dalek story when that panel took place, or maybe it was even sort of partway through production by that point. It was basically around the same time. But yes, it hadn't had any Daleks so far in Series 11, but there was going to be one, obviously, in Resolution. So he's being very, very crafty there, very, very clever, very careful. And, Russell could be doing a similar thing here. He's actually gone out and said that there are no Daleks, no Cybermen, so he's going to go a step further than Chris there. He's not being kind of careful with his words, he's just kind of gone out and said it. But obviously, showrunners lie. They lie all the time. Chris lied there, Moffat lied, loads and loads across his era, and I don't blame him. Obviously you have to lie when asked these things to hold stuff back, otherwise there would never be any secrets or surprises. So it is possible that the Daleks and or Cybermen will be appearing not only in next year's season alongside Ncuti, but also maybe in the 60th. I certainly don't think it's going to end up being like a massive Dalek story. I don't think it's going to be a massive Dalek plot, especially because we've just had Liberation of the Daleks, the comic strip in Doctor Who magazine over the past year or so. That has very much been the 14th Doctor's encounter with the Daleks, has kind of ticked that box. I don't think they would have done that if the Daleks were due to show up on TV as well as part of the specials. So I'm guessing no Daleks in the 60th, really. Maybe a little cameo or something, maybe like a Dalek casing in the background or some archive footage or something. probably the same for the Cybermen, to be honest. But I think as far as Ncuti's season next year is confirmed and his Doctor, I think that's a whole other kettle of fish. I think, before these comments came round, I would have said it was pretty likely that the Daleks would be showing up at some points. Probably the most likely slot for them to turn up would be the finale for Series 14, Season 1, whatever we're calling it. There was speculation when that was filming. There was all the filming with Ncuti and Mel on the motorbike, and people that were there were saying, oh, they were on this motorbike riding through these London streets or whatever, actually in Cardiff obviously, but there were these things kind of firing at them and firing extras from the sky, and obviously, Daleks would fit the bill. It would make sense for them to be there. So yeah, I don't know. Is he lying about that? Maybe. Maybe not. Maybe it is just a new enemy for that story. For the whole of the series, maybe it's just new enemies. I mean, that was a controversial thing with Series 11. Obviously we had a similar approach from Chris Chibnall, where until Resolution, there were no Daleks, no Cybermen, Sontarans, Weeping Angels, anything like that, the Master. That was all held back for later in the year. It was only kind of at that New Year's Day special in 2019 that we started to get these nods to the past kind of coming into the show again, and obviously with Series 12 and then with Flux as well. So yeah, is Russell going to pull a similar sort of stunt here? I'm not sure how well that would go down, to have no returning enemies whatsoever in the series. It's not something that personally that I would be that against. I don't think. I think it's always good to let new enemies have the limelight and to try and establish these new classics. Like you said, it would be great to have some new classics from this new season. But I know a lot of fans do feel very strongly about that, the kind of prospect of a season with completely new enemies and no returning enemies or monsters or villains or anything. And yeah, I don't know really. I think with this, yes, he could be lying. I certainly wouldn't put it past Russell to be lying and to do something like this. I mean, already in this era, there is a precedent for Russell lying or not telling the truth and sort of misleading us with the whole thing of who Jodie's going to regenerate into. Is it going to be Ncuti? Is it going to be David Tennant? Ncuti was announced first. We were led to believe that he was the next Doctor, the 14th Doctor. Obviously, that's not what ended up happening. So, yes, there is already a precedent for this in this era. But equally, he could be telling the truth. Sometimes showrunners do tell the truth. So some of these things just do end up being true. I mean, the prospect of Ncuti not facing the Daleks or the Cybermen or any returning enemies in his first season, yeah, not something I'd be totally against. I do think, it'd be really nice whenever the Daleks do come back to have a lovely new, fresh redesign. I certainly do think that will happen whenever the time comes. I don't think next year's season would be too soon for that, to be honest. I think the timing of that would be about right. We last saw the Daleks obviously in Power of the Doctor. We saw them before that in Eve of the Daleks. I think especially if they had a new redesign, a new refreshed look, that would be fine, really. I think enough time will have passed for that to work, and for there to already have been a bit of a gap, over a year since Power of the Doctor, nearly 2 years basically, or over 2 years by that point since Eve of the Daleks. So I'm not really sure. I don't really buy that argument that, okay, yes, we have the Daleks every year. We have the Daleks every year, but I think by the time of next year's season, yeah, we won't have had the Daleks every year. So, I don't know. I think, in short, in summary, if this is true, then, fair play to them, fair play to Russell. Hopefully we get some new enemies instead, some nice new classics. But also, there is a part of me that is a bit sceptical about this and doesn't quite believe what is being said here and thinks that maybe, just maybe, the Daleks will be showing up sooner than we're being led to believe. Those are my thoughts on this news, but what do you think about this? Are you kind of upset by the prospect of the Daleks not showing up for another couple of years? Do you want them to appear sooner than that? Would you be happy to have a series without the Daleks or the Cybermen or no returning monsters whatsoever? Do you think Russell is lying? Do you think he's telling the truth? Whatever your thoughts, whatever your spin on this, please let me know down in the comments below. If you have enjoyed this video, please do leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new for more stuff like this in the future. But otherwise, until the next one, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye for now.